Hi, everyone. My name's Laura, and I want to share a story that changed my life forever. It's about family, betrayal, and the kind of pain that only comes from the people you trust the most. But it's also about redemption, strength, and how sometimes karma has its own way of setting things right. So grab a cup of coffee, because this one's a roller coaster. I grew up in a small, warm house by the lake, the kind of place where every corner held a memory. My parents weren't rich, but they were kind, loving, and hardworking. My dad was a mechanic, and my mom worked at a local bakery. We didn't have much, but we had us, and that was enough. I also had an older brother, Ethan. He was charming, confident, and everyone's favorite, especially my parents. He was the golden child. Straight A's, captain of the football team, always knew how to make people laugh. And me? I was the quiet one. The one who stayed up late helping mom with dishes while Ethan went out with his friends. But when we both became adults, our paths couldn't have been more different. I went to college on scholarships and student loans, working 2 jobs just to survive. Ethan, on the other hand, didn't bother with college. He said, "I'll make it big without school." And somehow, my parents still believed he would. Years passed. I moved to another city, started working in marketing, and slowly began building my own life. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Then one evening, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was trembling. "Laura, we're losing the house." I froze. My parents' home, the house they'd lived in for over 30 years, was being foreclosed. My dad had injured his back and couldn't work, and the bakery my mom worked for had shut down. They'd fallen behind on payments, and the bank wasn't giving them any more time. I took a deep breath. "Mom, don't worry. I'll handle this." I didn't have much in savings, but I had enough for a down payment. So I flew back home, met with the bank, and after some exhausting paperwork, I bought the house. I bought my parents' home back under my name. When I handed them the keys, my mom started crying. My dad hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You're our angel, Laura," he whispered. For a while, everything felt perfect again. My parents could finally relax, and I visited every weekend to help them settle in. Ethan, of course, didn't show up for any of it. But a few months later, he came home. Out of nowhere. He arrived in a flashy car, wearing designer clothes, and with a grin that screamed arrogance. "So, little sis saved the day, huh?" he said, laughing as he walked into the living room like he owned the place. My parents were thrilled to see him. My mom cooked his favorite dinner, my dad opened a bottle of wine, and Ethan played his usual role, the charming son. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Over the next few weeks, Ethan started spending a lot of time at the house. He'd come by just to check on mom and dad, but soon he was staying over. Then he moved in. I didn't mind at first. He was family after all. But things changed fast. He started inviting his friends over. Loud parties, drinking, smoking on the porch. I confronted him one night. "Ethan, this isn't your place. Mom and Dad need peace." He smirked. "You mean our parents and their house? Last time I checked, this is still Mom and Dad's home." I clenched my jaw. "No, Ethan, it's mine. I bought it for them so they'd have somewhere safe to live." He rolled his eyes. "You're so dramatic, Laura. Always trying to be the hero." That night, I couldn't sleep. I started noticing small things. My dad's old tools missing from the garage. Some jewelry gone from Mom's dresser. When I asked, they both brushed it off. "Maybe we misplaced them," Mom said softly, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Then came the day that broke me. I came over one weekend to visit. My mom didn't answer the door, which was strange. When I finally got in with my spare key, the house was a mess. Beer bottles everywhere, muddy footprints on the carpet, and there, in the living room, was Ethan, sitting with a real estate agent. He looked at me like I'd walked in on a secret. "Oh, hey sis, we're just, discussing some options." My heart dropped. Options? For what? He smiled. For selling the house. I mean, Mom and Dad are getting older. Don't you think they'd be happier in a small apartment? I already have a buyer lined up. I felt my blood boil. You can't sell it, Ethan. It's not yours. He leaned back, smug. Actually, it's in our family's name, and Mom and Dad said they'd sign whatever I needed. I turned to my parents, but they couldn't even look at me. My mom's eyes were full of tears. "We didn't want to upset you, honey," she whispered. "Ethan said it would be good for us." I stormed out. That night, I couldn't stop crying. I'd worked for years to give them security, and my own brother was stealing it right out from under us. But then, something inside me snapped. If Ethan wanted to play games, I'd show him who he was messing with. I called my lawyer and pulled up every document related to the house. Luckily, when I bought it, I never transferred ownership back to my parents. It was still legally mine. Ethan had no right to sell it, no matter what he told them. So, I waited. A week later, Ethan threw another one of his parties. Loud music, strangers everywhere. I showed up unannounced, walked right in, and stood in the middle of the living room. Everyone stopped talking. Ethan looked furious. "What are you doing here?" I smiled calmly. "Actually, I was going to ask you that. You're trespassing." He laughed. "What?" I pulled out a folded paper from my bag and held it up. "This is the property title. The house is mine. You're the one who doesn't belong here." His face went pale. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I said. "I've already spoken to the police. You have 20 minutes to pack your things before I report this as a break-in." For the first time in his life, Ethan didn't have a comeback. His friends quietly slipped out the door, one by one. He turned to my parents, desperate. "Mom, Dad, say something." My dad stood up slowly. His hands were shaking, but his voice was firm. "Ethan, I think it's time you left." That moment broke my heart. Seeing my father, who'd always defended him, finally see the truth. Ethan left that night, slamming the door so hard it rattled the windows. We didn't hear from him for months. My parents were devastated, but slowly, peace returned. Then, one afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Ethan. He apologized, said he was broke, that his so-called friends had abandoned him, and that he finally realized how much he'd hurt us. He asked if he could come home. I didn't answer right away. I showed the letter to my parents, and they cried. They missed him. Despite everything, he was still their son. So, I agreed. On one condition. He could come back, but he'd have to earn his place. No more lies, no more manipulation. He'd have to work, contribute, and rebuild trust. And to my surprise, he did. He started working with my dad's old mechanic friends, fixing cars. He stopped drinking. He even helped Mom in the garden again. It took a long time, but eventually, we started healing. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, my dad turned to me. "Laura," he said softly, "you didn't just buy this house back. You brought our family back." I smiled. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Sometimes, family breaks you, but sometimes they surprise you too. And while forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it makes the future a little lighter. So, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you love, Remember this. Strength isn't about revenge. It's about standing tall, setting boundaries, and still having the courage to love again. Because at the end of the day, people might take everything from you, your trust, your home, your peace, but they can't take your heart unless you let them. And that's something my brother learned the hard way.